Shut it down.
Welcome back to the Enjoy the Walk podcast, guys. As always, joined by my fellow friends, Dante and Isaiah. Guys, how you doing this week?
Good, man. How you doing?
Oh man, we're enjoying some laughs and some libations here on this fine Monday evening, getting ready for our Tuesday release for you guys. But man, what a week in golf! We saw a lot happen from Dante's side of things at the Greater Philadelphia Golf Show. And we saw some awesome leaderboard faces in the Pebble Beach PGA Pro-Am. So, guys, we got a lot to talk about this week. So, where y'all like to start?
I can't stop. I can't keep focused right now because I just see a nice glare on my face. But
hey, we'll appreciate all of our bald-headed fans out there right now. Dante issues with his nice dome piece right now.
Sometimes you just can't. Life happens. Whatever.
Gotta get you a beanie, like an Enjoy the Walk beanie to cover that up, maybe.
That would be nice.
Probably be good. Yeah.
Thanks.
Any companies out there that wants to help Dante grow some hair, reach out to us.
At Bosley, at whoever.
Oh, goodness. Well, yeah, guys, I appreciate y'all listening, whoever's tuned in and putting us on their mobile devices or on their computers during their workday. Means a lot as we get into our crazy to think, guys. We're in our third month now as a podcast. Pretty cool to look back on places we've been, things we've done, interviews we've had. And for any listeners out there, follow us on Instagram @_enjoythewalk. If you follow us on there and tag 2 friends at our giveaway post that you'll see us post in accordance with this podcast, we are doing a 1K giveaway. So we're creeping in on 1,000 followers. And pretty pumped to be bringing some of our favorite brands that we're already, working with, and some brands that we're going to be working with in the future, and bring them in on a pretty sweet 1K giveaway. So @_enjoythewalk, go check out that post, and tag some friends and hope you win.
Tell your friends, absolutely. Yeah, it's pretty sick. It feels like yesterday we were talking about the good old Hawaii trip. Some Dole Whip, got to throw that in there.
Yeah,
shade at Dalton real quick.
All hail the Dole Whip.
It's just that's pretty wild to see things, how fast it can grow. Just keep on moving.
Yeah,
excited to see what this year brings. I know Dalton and I, before I met Isaiah, before we were talking, we were feeling 2020 is going to be a good year, and so far it's off to a great start.
Yeah.
I mean, just shout out to the people that took their time and said hello to us down in Orlando, and that was kind of the kickstart for us, and we're really happy to be bringing some good quality interviews to you guys as the listeners here in 2020, and some stories that we think you guys will really appreciate from inside the industry, and some stories that maybe from guys that aren't even in the golf industry necessarily, but have a really cool story to tell of how they got into the game and how they get out and play every day, even with their 9 to 5. So, speaking of growing and seeing kind of reoccurring folks within the industry already, Dante, fill us in on how your trip was out to that Philadelphia golf show.
Yeah, it's always fun to go. Me and my dad, we always go every year. We always look forward to it. And I was telling you guys earlier that the main difference between the PGA show and the Greater Philly show at Golf and Travel Show, it's actually called it in the Oaks Convention Center, is the main difference, I believe, is that the PGA show is mainly for the industry. The Golf and Travel Show is mainly for your consumer. It's your individual consumer, mainly for, your weekend warrior, weekend hack, or whatever. You're just like, a couple buddies like to go play out and do whatever you want with golf when it comes to it. So that's my main take from it. But, it was a lot of fun. We saw a lot of the same stuff from the previous years. You see a lot of like mom and pop shops, which is cool to see. So you can definitely, if you're looking to get some inexpensive equipment, shoes, load up on some balls, if you really don't care what what type of condition they are in. Gloves, you can really load up on that stuff. I mean, you can find some solid quality irons, even some great quality like pro irons for in between the $300 and $400, which is great because we know golf is expensive. It's an expensive game, and it's just getting pricier and pricier. And if you're on a budget, the golf show is definitely a place to go. I know they have other locations, but I don't know off the top of my head. But if you can get off to the golf and travel show, you can find some sweet stuff.
I know. I saw right off the bat when you kind of took over our Instagram page as yourself for the day. One of the first things you posted, which I thought was really cool, and I want to know how you ended up because I didn't see your putt, but your dad left this putting contest putt wide right and well short. I know you hit it. How'd yours end up?
So, actually. So you get it was $5 to enter, and that's what's cool about that. They have the hitting area where you can test clubs. There's 10-minute free lessons. There's a long drive. There's the putting contest. I mean, as you saw, it's this very long putt, and they also have this chipping contest, which also I can get into. But the putting contest, you use $5 to enter, and you got 3 balls, and I mean, you saw how long it was, and the way the putt goes, it's there every year. So I kind of know the break already. First putt came up short. Second putt just went left edge. It just broke a little second too early, or that thing was going in. And then third putt, same line, but I just had a little too much speed. And it went it went a little bit more.
No
left.
Grand prize for the Frederico family.
No prize. I was like, Dad, you stink. No, I'm just kidding.
And then you said, dang, Dante, you stink too.
Yeah, he's like, you suck. He goes, and you play this game now? So that's a lot of fun. And then one I really like, and my dad, he has problems chipping, but I try and give him lessons, and he goes, oh, it finally worked, but we won't even get into that. So they have, you remember as a kid, remember playing with those, they were like half circles, and you strap your hand to it and you throw like the fuzzy ball and it sticks to the Velcro.
Yeah.
So they have those as the balls that you hit, and they have a giant blow up dartboard that you have to shoot on there. And then if you got 61 points or more, you got a free sleeve of balls. And if you were the highest with the highest points, you got an M6 driver. Lo and behold, the old man beat me. I was aiming for the 60, the normal 60 on the dartboard where everybody tries to shoot. I was right at that. I mean, I hit this pitching wedge, and it just came off the club hot, and then it's just stuck on 9 points. I was like, damn, just a little right. And then I missed the other 2 shots that I got. My dad got, I think, 65 points, so he walked out with the sleeve of balls. So that was awesome to see.
So now I got to ask, because it's racking my brain, what was that game called?
I have no idea. I just show up, and then there's just these 2 giant blow up dartboards.
Like that game as a kid that we always played with the little paddles and the fuzzy ball. What was it called?
I don't know. I'm going to do a little.
This is where we need call-ins from the listeners, because one of our listeners would know this.
Probably.
This is going to sound
there's variations everywhere.
I was going to say, this is going to sound so not right, but something reminds me that it was called like koosh ball or something like that.
Nah, koosh ball was the rubber thing with the it was like very stringy. It was like a solid ball in the middle, and that was stringy. No, that wasn't that.
No.
Oh, here it is. Velcro paddle toss. Simple as that.
It can't be that easy. Come on.
I'm looking at it right now.
The build-up for all that expectation just did not follow through for itself at all. Oh, sorry for the fans at home. That just wasn't what it was worth. But so, I mean, you also saw some of our past acquaintances, some people we saw we've had on our podcast before. You saw Gavin Green up there representing Liberty Mountain Resort. How did you guys muck it up, and what did he have to say?
It was funny since I wasn't there when you and Isaiah went that one day. Unfortunately, I couldn't get off of work. So I walked by, and funny thing is, he was right across from the putting competition. So he got to watch that all day. So I look, and I'm walking by, and I'm like, oh, Liberty Mountain, cool. Carroll Valley, awesome. So I walk by there, and next thing I notice, I was like, I'm looking at this guy. I was like, that's Gavin. And he looked at me. He's like, that kid looks familiar. And I was like, Gavin? He's like, Dante. He goes, yeah. He was like, what's up, man? He goes, how's it going? So we just, we were just shooting the shit, just talking about everything and just talking about the course, catching up with things, seeing how he's doing. He's doing well. He said, come by anytime we want. He's lucky to have us. So we definitely are going to have to make a trip out, the three of us, all at once for once. That's I think is our next thing on the list of what we need to do.
Oh, I definitely think a spring trip is in store out to Liberty Mountain. I'm in the works. I think I don't want to reassure our listeners on it, but you can almost expect and enjoy the walk event out at Liberty Mountain Resort sometime in the spring, early summer. It's just a really neat venue, and we're putting something together there. So no locked in dates, but be on the lookout for that. Us and Gavin Green and the staff up there at Liberty Mountain are going to get something together because we want to showcase how great that venue really is. But now you also saw some good friends of ours that we met down in Orlando, the Boston Scott boys.
Yeah.
Boston Scott Golf. We were working with them a little bit on some apparel, and they have some seriously awesome, one-of-a-kind merch that not only they were showing at the Philadelphia show, but they kind of, sell online at bostonscottgolf.com, and they have just some really premium shirts. I would love for you to get into maybe what they were showing off out at the show. I know they have hats as well, but they had a really cool new item that they added to their lineup for 2020.
Yeah, their setup was pretty sick. I mean, once you walked in, you kind of walked through this one spot, turned the corner, made a left. I think they were in a pretty solid spot, and then they were right there, right on the corner of one of the aisles. And I mean, it had their backdrop was pretty sick. It had the Boston Scott logo, if I remember. It was pretty much all blue. They had this nice carpet laid out. They had a nice chair. They're like, yeah, man, hang out whenever you want and sit down. I mean, that chair looked very comfortable. But they were kind of showcasing the line of the shirts that we were able to get. The crimson red one and the flower one. They also have this other green one that's the skulls. You can't see it unless you really go face up to the shirt. It's kind of like this hidden design. So it's loud, but it's very subtle at the same time.
That's what I love about Boston Scott Golf. Yeah. I think most of their shirts are like that, right? And correct me if I'm wrong, but it has this like underlying pattern to where if you're not within 5 feet of someone, you really wouldn't be able to tell it. Like a lot of their shirts just kind of look like one solid color with maybe a little bit of something on it, but you really don't know what it is until you get kind of next to the tee on somebody or something like that. And then all of a sudden this design just pops, like you said, with that green shirt and the skulls and like the floral design you have. There's so much in it that like you really don't get to see it all. It just kind of looks like a white and blue like dots until you get real close. And all of a sudden it's just this nice floral pattern. They got some really cool stuff going on over there at Boston Scott.
Yeah, they had a few hats. They had their signature hats. I think they had a rope hat in there that was pretty cool. So they have kind of two logos. They have this emblem shield looking logo that's pretty sweet. Kind of looks like a crest, like almost like a family crest, which I really like. And then their signature sign with the BS. I really like that. That's pretty much on the sleeve of their shirts and all. Now
I have a fun little backstory about them real quick before we move on of how they got their Boston Scott logo. So the owner of the company, Steve Hoffman, he has a younger son that's huge into junior golf. And when he was like in junior golf, his son was kind of like, man, Dad, like I'm wearing the same shirt as like, 7 other kids wearing Under Armour gear. Or the same with like Nike. Like there wasn't that many options for junior golf clothes. So Steve, being in like kind of the textile industry before starting Boston Scott, had said, all right, son, well, like, I'm going to see what I can do about it, And then, so that's kind of how Boston Scott Golf got started, was actually they only offered junior size shirts, and they offered like kind of like a junior new option as far as junior golf goes for shirts and stuff like that. So when he told his son that he was doing this, he asked him to write his initials out in his best cursive, and that's what the logo is going to be. So that's how the BS, the signature of BS came to be. Was it's actually like at the time his 6-year-old son's little signature of Boston Scott, which is his son's name. So pretty neat little backstory of kind of how that company got started. And I think you can look for more of them and us together. We'll probably have them on the podcast here in the spring as well, as they start releasing new lines and working together with us too. So company we love, and company that I think are a bunch of good guys really trying to make a mark in a really tough industry to step foot in.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, man, their shirt, what I really like, their collar stays up. It doesn't fold, doesn't flap or anything. And, man, that material, I mean, it moves with your body. I mean, it don't matter what type of body shape you are.
Yeah, it was funny when we first started talking shirts and who we were, kind of looking to be. Like, I'm wearing a shirt now for all the people listening on or watching on YouTube. Podcasters, sorry you can't see it, but it's got a nice firm collar, and I like that feel. I like something that stands up. I don't like kind of that bacon collar, as some people would call it. I like something that stands firm and like can kind of feel it around my neck for the whole round. And Boston Scott, I think, does that better than any of the high-end manufacturers I've seen out there. I mean, whether it's a Travis Matthew or a Roebuck or a Adidas, Puma, whatever it may be, I think they're up there in the top echelon of quality of shirts for a very reasonable price too. So I mean, no free ads, but we love the guys over there at Boston Scott, and they've treated us really well. So it was really cool that you got to hook up with them up in Philly. I think that's where they're based out of, correct?
Pretty much. It's around the area. I'm trying to think of the club that they belong to, but from my area, it's about, I'm about 20 minutes southeast of Philly, so they're a little like northwest of the actual city. So from their location to mine, it's about an hour, which really isn't that bad at all.
No.
Yeah, I mean, it's so. They're like, yeah, come swing on by. I forget the club. It was like River something. I forget. I'm not River Hall. I don't know. But yeah, they're like, yeah, come on by. So it's kind of cool to see. You meet up with these people in a whole nother state to only find out that, where I live, they're
right back in your neck of the woods.
They're Philly guys pretty much. So that's kind of cool to see.
And that was the fun part. And I think like it deserves to be kind of taken into conversation here is like, the really neat part about the industry is as much as we traveled to see people in the industry and this, that, and the other thing, there are so many people within this industry that are so, open to just extending their hand and saying, hey, you got to come to my place. And like actually seeing it through to the point of, there's a lot of other people out there, and whether it's business or whatever you may have it, that says, oh yeah, you got to come to my place. And then you never hear from them again. I think it's different in the golf industry because we just all love the game so much, and we all love our little home track, and we all love showing off our home, club, and the little intricacies that go into everything that is surrounding our little club. That I think that's what separates golf from a lot of other, things in business. And I think it's why golf and business go so well hand in hand, is because you get to show off your own little, piece of heaven pretty much.
Sure. Yeah.
So no, that's a really cool to see. And I think, anyone else out there that maybe we haven't, caught up with, that you've seen us around or just haven't been able to catch up to us, feel free to email us at enjoythewalk19@gmail.com. And you can always reach out to us at our Instagram @_enjoythewalk. We're really good at trying to get back to everyone who's asking us questions, and whether it's the fans or companies trying to, get a hold of us. So definitely reach out for us on there. Some exciting news. And actually Dante was the one to kind of break our seal in the blog space. We are launching a blog as part of Enjoy the Walk. And, I'd love to touch on that a little bit here, guys. The provisional ball blog. So, the second ball is always the best, right?
Yeah. Yeah. That was fun to write. Kind of just recapped the Pebble Beach tournament and kind of tied that in with the recent USGA distance report, and kind of just went a little bit into the winner, Nick Taylor. So definitely go check that out. Give it a read. Leave some comments, critiques, whatever. Would love to hear back from you guys. So yeah, it was fun to write, and I think it kind of just can go into pretty much the tournament this past week and how basically was distance really an issue?
I mean, yeah. And before we get into that, just to kind of let the listeners know, I think the best way to stay up to date with our blog, I think we're going to be trying to do a couple a week. There's no set in stone days, but go to our website, www.enjoythewalk.store. Right at the bottom of the homepage or any page you click on will be an email subscriber list. So we also, we have about probably 40, 50 subscribers currently, but we'd love to build that list and really get our weekly emails out to everybody so you can kind of keep up with our blogs, with our YouTube videos, with our podcasts. Go to the bottom of any one of our pages at www.enjoythewalk.store. Sign up your email, your first name, and your birthday. We like to recognize birthdays and send you a little something special for whatever your birthday is. So, guys, sign up there if you want to keep tabs. And you'll be pretty much in the loop as far as all of our Enjoy the Walk releases go.
Speaking of birthdays,
happy birthday to Logue.
Thanks, guys. It's hard work getting old. Let me tell you, this is cup of coffee number 2.
Hey,
here
the large mammal, as I called him this morning. How old are you, big fella?
24.
Phew.
Yeah, getting up there. Getting old sucks. Don't let anyone tell you different.
Yeah, I turned 25, so I once you make the turn of the century, then come back and talk to us.
Listen, I'm one more away from the big 3-0, so you guys got shit to be saying right now.
Yeah, they say distance is detrimental to the game of golf, but I feel like age could be as well. But then again, you got Phil out there hitting bombs this week.
Yeah,
and roasting the USGA.
And let's get right into that, man. So obviously, Phil Mickelson's bombs are not controllable.
Oh my goodness!
He sprayed the ball all over the damn map. But let's talk about that third round. Let's talk about that third round from Phil Mickelson.
Yo, I was watching shots. I don't know if it was the third round, maybe the fourth, but we can get into. It was almost he was hitting slices or whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, next thing I know, he takes this slash at the ball. I mean, he's swinging hard. Next thing you know, oh, that's not good. And then you see the ball just way right in someone's yard or wherever the patrons or fans are standing. The grass is all matted down. That was, oh man, what's going on there?
I mean, so it's just crazy to think. And obviously, Phil the Thrill, notorious for a one-of-a-kind short game. But just to throw some stats at you guys this week, for his third round, he ended up shooting 5 under, 67, and he only hit 7 fairways the entire day and 8 greens. The man was a magician with his short game. Back-to-back holes, 7 and 8, he chips in, 7 from just an impossible lie in the bunker. Ends up getting that one to roll in. And then 8, hitting one that if it doesn't hit the pin, it's going into the back bunker, off the green again. So, I mean, a little luck involved, but all in all, Phil just showed why he is one of the greatest showmen out on tour.
Yeah, when I watch Phil, I don't watch to see him necessarily hit bombs. I watch to see just what he can do when he puts a wedge in his hands. I know he's put a lot of time and effort in with Roger Cleveland and designing those Mickelson grind, the PM grind, Mac Daddy wedges with the raised toe. And boy, is he just good with those. I mean, the man is surgical when it comes to any aspect or any shot that he's got that wedge in his hand. He is just surgical.
It's unreal. I mean, you look at I touched a little bit on the front 9 there, but then he turns the back 9 and then misses the par 3 12th in the death zone. Now he ends up making bogey there. So you're like, all right, he can't keep the magical, like you said, surgical precision of these wedge shots up. He's faltering. He got lucky early, whatever. Then he turns around on the 13th hole and he chips in again. I mean, it's just when you think it can't be done again, he just continues to do it. And then he turns right back around at the par 5 14th and chips his 4th shot from like 30 yards to tap in range, and then rounds up his entire like magical round on the 18th, putting one from the fans. Like he hits his 3rd shot on the par 5 18th into the fans, or I'm sorry, the 2nd shot into the fans, and then chips one and almost knocks in an eagle, another tap in birdie from where he just no man should have been playing from in Pebble Beach. It just the Pebble Beach golf course, along with Spyglass and Monterey Peninsula, played tough this week for being some of the shortest courses out there on tour. And I think, Dante really touched on that pretty well in our blog this week. And I'd love for you to get into that a little more, man.
Yeah. I mean, they say distance is detrimental, but I just don't think you need that really, because it all comes down to, your flat stick on the green and just pure accuracy. I touched that a little bit. Basically, Nick Taylor out of the week averaged under 300 yards. He averaged 292.4 from the PGA site that I got from. It just kind of goes to show there. And the course played, so the longest course played just over 7,000 yards, and I think that was Monterey Peninsula. And then the other two, Spyglass and Pebble Beach, were playing at 6,950 or 6,980, basically 6,900 yards. So it just shows that it wasn't the longest of courses, but the guy who had, after the first round, Nick Taylor's driving accuracy was in the 90 percentile.
That's why he won.
Yeah. Exactly, 90%. So if you're putting your shots in the fairway and you're being accurate and you're not spraying it all over the place like high bomb Phil out there, you're gonna do some damage. And I touched on it too. Like, yeah, is it cool? Is it great that you can hit the long ball? Yeah, that's great. But and that's cool because it'll give you a shorter club in your hand, which in theory should relate to more control. But that's not always the case there. So
I'm gonna touch on it too. Like Phil Mickelson says he hits bombs. I'm looking at stats here. Majority of his drives, 267, 278, 284, 260, 269. So like for the bombs that Phil Mickelson says he's trying to hit and working on his swing speed, yeah, he hit a couple over 300, but like a couple in a 4-day span, that doesn't set me as a standard of being a bomber, And he doesn't have to be. Obviously, look, he contended for the title. He didn't you don't have to be a bomber. And Dante, you touched on that too. It's like you look at the guys that were bombers. Scott Stallings, beefed up, missed the cut. Cameron Champ ended up being T55. He barely made the cut. Dustin Johnson, big bomber, outside the top 25. So when you talk about these whole distance scenarios being, detrimental to the game, I'm just not seeing it.
And now that we're paying attention to it too, this is another thing that people are starting to catch on to, because for the longest time, no one even considered the question of whether distance was actually detrimental to the game, because we all just assumed that it wasn't. Now that the question's being raised and people are doing research, there's just more and more evidence supporting the side that errs to distance is not devastating to the game in any way. My coach in college used to say all the time, if you can hit it 285 or 290 and find fairways, you're going to pick up 2-3 shots on everybody in the field just by finding more fairways, because you're going to be in a more optimal position to score. And that's just is what it is. And then you just got to be like Phil with your wedges. That's all it comes down to. Make a couple of putts and you'll be right where you need to be. It's not like it's rocket science. Otherwise, EJ would have been leading.
And if your flat stick is hot, game over.
Yeah, you want to talk about flat sticks being hot. Jordan Spieth came out of the woodworks finally this week. Obviously, he's making some swing changes. Yeah, Jordan Spieth, I think 3-time major winner, maybe more. Correct me if I'm wrong, but
I think it was 3.
Yeah, so he got the putter rolling again. And then I just want to touch on two yardages here from this past weekend, and I'm going to let you guys guess on which course played the hardest. Spyglass was playing par 72, yardage 70-35. Monterey Peninsula, par 71, was playing 69.58. Guess how long Pebble was playing? Only 68.16, and it played the toughest out of the 3 courses. You don't need to be long to challenge these pros.
Yeah, and you look at the rough. You look at the. I don't recall seeing any shots really spinning back at Pebble. Right there on the water, I think most of the shots were hitting and releasing for the most part. I remember seeing Phil hit a wedge on one of the holes, and the ball rolled at least 10 feet. And Phil puts a lot of spin on the ball. I mean, we've seen him do it for years. So it just goes to show that if you narrow some fairways, make the fairways a little bit softer, like Dante's been saying, maybe a couple well-placed bunkers, and you grow the rough out in addition to some firm greens, and that's more than enough to challenge any player of any skill level at any point in time in history.
I like to see a tournament be held, because if you think about it, these guys are playing in optimum conditions, like prime golf weather, and they, there's so much money involved that they can pay these courses to say, hey, we need you to put the extra mile and go 120% to make these courses so pure that you play on some of these private courses, the conditions you see that the tournament's being held is not what the average member plays. So it'd be kind of sick to see, put them in a course where it's not 75 degrees. Give them like maybe, that 50-degree weather. It's a little dampy, the ball's not moving as much, and give them a little rough edges. Come play with the average Joes play. I want to see them try and hack it around a course and see what kind of damage they can do, on some of the places that we've had the basically played. But I would love to see that.
Growing up in the Northeast, I've always kind of said that, give these guys 30, maybe, okay, not 30 degrees, maybe like 40 to 50 degrees. 50 degrees is a high. Come and play one of our not so well maintained tracks, and refuse their bitching about it, and let them see what they can shoot. Obviously, I've seen Isaiah shoot some incredible numbers at not so well a maintained course, but it was playing at like 6,200 yards. So give these guys a 6,900 yard track that's not the best maintained, and see how they do. I guarantee you probably wouldn't even have half the guys show up, first of all. But it would definitely pose the question, hey, what the hell can these guys do in a Northeastern, everyday 9-to-5 guys perspective of golf.
Yeah, and one thing my dad and I, we talk about it all the time, because it's funny. It's you don't want to see someone play bad, but when they have a bad shot or they get themselves in some crap, you kind of level with, in reality, that these guys are they're just people too. So they're human. They come into these stuff, but TV shows the best. So it's interesting to see, oh, they have a bad shot, or they shank it, or hey, they're just like, you get the average guy saying, oh, I did that. And that's what's one cool thing about golf is that, and that's why everybody loves the pros and whatnot, because we've said it before, is you and I are still playing the same game as the pros, maybe in different type of conditions. Yeah, but we're playing the same game. So if we can somehow relate to the pros as much as possible, it just makes it that much greater of a game, and just kind of you get a more better perspective, and you kind of it's just more relatable, and it's kind of cool to see. So it'd be cool to see a tournament that's being played in something that the average guy goes out and plays. I'm hoping it gets 50 degrees so I can go out and play in some damp conditions, maybe get a lie where it's behind a clump or whatnot. I would love to see how those guys handle it, so I can learn from them. So when I take it out on my course and my game, and if I get myself in that type of situation, okay, I would love to see how those guys get it. I mean, I'm not getting the flushes of grass around the green or wherever. I've come in some nasty spots before. So anytime you can get a chance to relate more close to the pros is a good thing.
Yeah, and I mean, we're still saying, and I think we all agree, these guys are a touch above the rest, and they obviously have some phenomenal hand-eye coordination and wonderful short game and what it be. But it'd be interesting to see, put them on our level for a change and see how they compete. Now, a course that is most definitely not on our level and extremely exclusive. This coming week's Genesis Invitational. We had
Where's
some
it
picks.
hosted?
We had some picks last week, so it's at Riviera Country Club.
Yeah.
Up in near Los Angeles, just outside of Los Angeles. Something pretty cool I wanted to touch on here that they came out with actually earlier this morning, Monday. We're recording this on Monday evening. The Genesis Invitational is going to honor Kobe Bryant on their number 8th hole, their par 4. They've basically turned the whole entire vibe around their 8th hole into the Mamba mentality. Their signs are changed from their typical white and black Genesis into a purple and gold Mamba sign. The flag's going to have a difference between number 8 and then 24 on Sunday. We kind of saw the same thing when the weekend right after it happened at the Waste Management Phoenix, where they set up their number 16th hole as number 8 and number 24 on the pins. We saw guys wearing Kobe's jersey. So I think it's really neat that a tournament that's so close to a lot of people's hearts in the LA area is kind of continuing to honor such a historic figure like Kobe Bryant. It's definitely, well deserved, and it's nice to see the sports world coming together. A lot of the guys, I think, in the professional ranks, whether it's baseball, basketball, football, golf, they kind of all look to him and the book that he wrote, Mamba Mentality, and just took a lot of his mannerisms and have implied them onto how to succeed at the highest levels. So it's really nice to see Genesis hopping in there and doing some of the similar things.
Yeah, that's really cool to see, man. It's because he's an icon, and it's especially now the guys coming up now, that are relatively at our age. Those are the guys who grew up. These were, granted there was MJ and whatnot, but we also grew up watching pretty much Kobe. Like Kobe was like our guy, and it's just really cool to see. And it's awesome. That's what I really like to see is how other, not just the golf community, but other sports communities just kind of coming together as one and being able to honor them that way, and then honor, those who, have fallen with them. Is it's pretty remarkable to see on that. It's really awesome.
No doubt about that. Now I'll save you guys off the hook this week. I will for today anyway. We'll release our picks for the event on Thursday in our episode with Pat Webster. So we'll release our picks for who we think's going to take home the Genesis Open on Thursday, so you guys can get that Thursday morning before they tee off and put in your bets if you're banking on us for picks out of all people, which if you are, God help you, because I don't know why you are.
Don't pay banking on my pick.
I will say
my guy got cut.
I came in hot with the Phil Mickelson pick this past week. And I'll be honest with you, I picked Rombo for the Waste Management. So John Rahm. So we were up there. I didn't pick winners. We were up there. I don't think anyone picked Nick Taylor to win this past week. So
I don't think many people even know who Nick Taylor is to begin with.
Yeah, let's stop and give him the spotlight here for a second. I'd love to. I think he's one of those guys that hasn't won out on tour in 6 years, I think they said. And it's just a really cool story. Kind of one of those guys that really fits our mentality. Guys that we love to kind of spotlight are out there just grinding on the game. And obviously, I'm not 100% sure if he had, lost his card and had just maybe gained it back or what his scenario was. But obviously out there in the Pebble Beach Pro-Am, now the dude has an invite to the Masters, a completely life-changing two-year exemption status. So Nick Taylor, he's from Canada, went to Washington University out in the West Coast, Pacific Northwest up there. Won the 2007 Canadian Amateur Championship. It's a really cool story because he definitely came from nowhere. The first 2 rounds when he was leading, everyone was saying, "Oh, well, what's this guy? What's his deal? Where did he come from?" So at 31 years of age, he's definitely done his lap or two around the professional golf ranks. And it's just a really, really good thing to see in professional golf that these guys are able to win when they can kind of come from, nowhere, as people would say. Obviously, Isaiah, that it's really not coming from nowhere. Anyone in the professional ranks are good enough to win on any given day. But yeah, neat story from this guy, Nick Taylor.
Yeah, and he basically played his ass off. I mean, I'm pretty sure he led he just won outright.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody really kind of came up and took his spot. I mean, he was pretty up there the entire time.
Yeah, look at four-stroke win here from on top of Kevin Streelman, and 5 strokes over Phil Mickelson and Jason Day. He had over 7 or 8 strokes, so pretty convincing win at that.
Yeah. And talk about, other names that just seem to pop up out of nowhere. Kevin Streelman's another one that just popped up. I mean, when was the last time you heard that name advertised somewhere? I think the last time I saw him was actually on the range at a Corn Ferry event that I was playing in.
Yeah, that's crazy. And that was just last year, right?
Yeah, just this past year.
I mean, it's just and that speaks to how quick professional golf can change for anyone, I think. Hell, you look at Matt Wolff and his first season on tour and how life-changing that was for him, and anyone out there that just can get on a hot streak, I think, and capitalize on their scenario of being on the tour and getting that kind of win. We said I'm finally looking here at Taylor's resume. He has never played in the Masters, so it's going to be a first time for him. His best finish in any major championship is T36 back in 2009. So he's going to have a really good opportunity to not only play in the Masters, but he's never played in the Open Championship before, so he'll have a great opportunity to do that as well. Has never finished higher than T68 in a PGA Championship. I feel like if he continues his, good streak of golf here, he'll obviously probably top that. It's just it's something that's really life-changing, and I love to hear these kind of stories from the PGA.
For sure. And it's cool to see too, these guys are out there grinding. When you get those guys who, are just up and coming or have been on tour, but just couldn't, it's just there, but couldn't really get that win. And then they do, it's almost this huge weight lifts off their shoulders, and then they can relax. Like, okay, I got a lot of breathing room right now. And then I can actually just go out, focus, and play. And then really just enjoy it too. Being that, you had that status and you're like, now I can really enjoy it rather than worrying about day to day, am I putting food on the table aspect. And that's what I love where we're at with the game too. And I know we said it, it's just, the field is so large and the guys are just so damn good right now that anybody can win. It's not, 5 to 10 players that you constantly see hosting up a trophy at the end of the, Sunday afternoon. I mean, you like Nick Taylor and, next thing you know, like Matt Wolff and then, Max Homa, and just guys that are just kind of, up and coming or they just come out of the woods and then they come up and they have a win. And now you're setting themselves up to, be a little bit more free and be a little bit more aggressive when it comes to things, because they know that, if I lose this tournament, or if I get cut, I'm basically done for the year or whatnot. You'll start seeing more aggressive shots and you'll start seeing more different guys on that leaderboard.
For sure. I mean, you look at someone else who's kind of been like sneaky, just hanging back there, has been a guy that, not a bomber by any means, kind of a shorter hitter on tour. But Zac Blair, another top 20 this week. And I mean, guys like that, and Max Homa, T14, not a by what you would call bomber out there on tour. These guys, Blair's in his first year up from, I believe, the Corn Ferry Tour. Homa, another guy, first year up from the Corn Ferry Tour. So a lot of guys, Lanto Griffin, T9. He won, less than 4 months ago, first year up from the Corn Ferry Tour. Another young guy, Maverick McNeely, T5. First year up from the Corn Ferry Tour. So, I mean, these guys talk about all the time that there's such a thin gap between the PGA Tour and the Corn Ferry Tour that it's like almost unseeable, that the talent that's, at both levels. And I think it's really coming, to fruition in some of these events. You're seeing a lot of these guys who really, they aren't acting like rookies out there. They aren't struggling. They're transitioning so well. Harry Higgs, T18, right there. Another guy, first year up. So you go through this leaderboard and you start to see, like, man, it's sprinkled with first year guys. And I think it's a testament to how well they figured out, how well the PGA Tour has actually figured out the whole Q school, system. I think it's a good system to prep these guys, whether, through these kind of supplemental tours to be ready for the PGA Tour.
I think it just goes to show how mental the game of golf really is, because there's no real physical separator between, the PGA Tour or the Korn Ferry, except maybe, with the exception of Phil Mickelson and his wedges, just because he's had another 10, 15 years to perfect that craft, unlike, say, a Lanto Griffin or Maverick McNeely. But that's just something that comes with age. But there is a different level of maturity that you see in players on the PGA Tour. And one thing I noticed that happened not too long ago was actually this past season, Justin Thomas won an event. And after winning the event, he immediately goes the next morning, he's in the gym at 5 o'clock at the stable, I think, down in Florida. He's working out. He's the only guy at the gym out of all the players. And then he goes to the range and he just starts his process right back over again. Meanwhile, I think it was Cameron Champ. He won the PGA event, and his next post from the next day was like, I'm taking a day off. He went and bought like a Camaro and some nice truck, and it was like, I finally made it. But you didn't really make it.
No.
You've only won one. And, that's going to give you starts. It'll give you access into some other events. But Cameron went right back to the Korn Ferry pretty quickly.
Yeah, it's funny. It's funny. Like, I hate to be cliche, but it's that Mamba mentality. Mm-hmm. It's like, all right, we got one championship, but like, all right, let's get to 2, let's get to 3, let's get to 4, let's get to 5. And I mean, if you look at guys that have a longevity out there on tour, it's not the guys that are like, oh, I made it. It's the guys that are hungry for more and that are, willing to put the time in and really grind. And the PGA Tour is a grind to stay out there for as long as, some of these veterans have. I mean, you look at a guy like Colt Knost, who finally said, I think he's hanging it up. He's retiring. He lost his card at the end of 2019 and just said, you know what, had a grind. They've had a great, I think he was 35, 36. So he was kind of, he's been out on the professional golf, circuit for a while, whether it's the PGA Tour or the supplemental tours. He's been out there forever. And, I saw so many guys, whether it was like Kuchar or I think I saw Tony Finau commenting on his Instagram post announcing he was retiring, saying, like how special it is to make a living playing professional golf. And how great of a testament it is to your work ethic and to your drive to actually be able to sustain a life out there on tour, because it's tough, man.
Yeah, I would really like to sit down with, Justin Thomas's mental coach, if he ever had one, or even Tiger. I mean, I guess we could say Tiger's dad was his mental coach, but I think you could see a huge difference between a player that steps on the golf course that has the expectation of winning versus the hope of winning. And I think these younger players that go in, they're thinking, I hope I win. I hope I get this top 10. And I think you see that's why some of them fall to the wayside. They just get so wrapped up in it mentally. But Tiger, back in his prime, and even now, he's still a great player. But if you watched him when he stepped on the course, the concern wasn't about winning. He just had the expectation it was going to happen, and he was waiting for it to happen. So I think when we, compare that to Justin Thomas, when he stepped back into the gym immediately and stepped back, onto the course, he wasn't caring about the win that he just had. He expected to win. Mm-hmm. I think he expected to win because he knew he put in so much time working out in the gym, training mental coaches, recovery, what have you. He had an expectation. And I think if we look at some of the players coming into the game now or stepping onto the PGA now, I think it'd be more interesting to see how they perform if they have the expectation instead of the hope. And like Dante said, they play more free.
And I think perfect example of it, man. People were talking about how Spieth fell off the face of the earth because he was of this struggle, that struggle, and all the other struggle. They don't realize the back end work of how hard he's grinding. He was quoted in saying last week that, like, I've really been working on a grip change. It's going to make my transition easier. It's going to free me up getting through the ball. And you look this week, especially the last 2 rounds, he was leading in driving accuracy. Shots gained tee to green. He was number 1, not like top 5. Number 1. He lowest round of Sunday at Pebble Beach. Jordan Spieth, 5 under. So I mean, people just don't understand, man. You can't just like flick a switch and make a swing change, especially if you're struggling. So the critics are so quick to harp on someone for struggling and taking time for themselves. I know, Spieth took, I think 2 months it was, and just stayed home in Texas and just grinded. I mean, we don't hear about that because no one's videotaping it. No one's out there on Instagram speaking about it. But I guarantee you he was up. When your best friend's Justin Thomas, he's up at the ass crack of dawn, working out. He's on the range with his swing coach, Cameron McCormick. He's grinding. I know he's grinding. And it was awesome to see a guy like Spieth, as much of a head case as he might be, have success again and throw some good numbers together in a tournament, because he's so young in the grand scheme of professional golf that he's not done. And I'm almost, and I will put this in writing, I'm almost guaranteeing you'll see him in a top 10 of at least 2 majors this year. One of them being Augusta. The kid loves that place, and he's due for some retribution around Augusta National.
And think about it, your friend, you're that one year where he was just number 1 in the world, winning majors, just coming out, just firing. Spieth was all in the headlines, number 1 guy. And then you start to slow down a little bit. And then your best friend starts taking the wheel, and he's coming in and he's winning tournaments, and Justin Thomas this, Justin Thomas that. That's gotta, even though they're friends, and they like to compete with each other, but knowing me too, I think that would eat me up inside.
Well, don't you think it's funny now how, like, when Jordan Spieth came out on tour, Justin Thomas was always like his little brother. Like, whenever you talked about Justin Thomas, it was Jordan Spieth's friend, Jordan Spieth's buddy. It was never Justin Thomas, the golfer. And I think it's hilarious now that the scripts have finally, like, kind of flipped on him. Because at the end of the day, I don't think it's more to them than just busting each other's balls at the end of the day. But it's just funny how the media covers it, Now it's, Jordan Spieth, losing the limelight to Justin Thomas. And it's like, that's not what's happening at all. I guarantee you they're both sitting at home with a beer in hand, cheering for each other. And there's a lot more of that in the game of golf than what these media outlets make it seem like.
Go scroll through Instagram. Just look up some of the videos of Justin and Ricky and Jordan, mucking it up down in Florida, drinking beers, driving around in their carts, just enjoying the game for what it is. And I think some of those guys too, once they get over the fact that I literally am putting for millions of dollars, or I've got to keep this in the fairway to make a paycheck. When you can mentally get over that hurdle and just accept that it is what it is, it's no different than what you did when you were 12. You just get to make money at it, and that's a perk. When it gets back to the grassroots of what the game used to be, that's when players become more free. You see lower scores, and ultimately you see them on top of more leaderboards.
Sure. And I think our guest that we're going to have on today, being a plus handicap in his own right, I would love to get his thought process on kind of just the amateur golf side of things, as he's a pretty accomplished amateur in his own right, and out in the San Francisco, Northern California area. So, guys, without further ado, I think that's kind of our wrap up here for Tuesday, and we'll get right into our interview. Guys, we're going to have Ben Peters. If you guys don't know Ben by his regular name, his street name per se, you guys guaranteed could probably know him as @the Golf Hawk on Instagram. I think other than, Christian Hafe. He's probably at Hafe Life on Instagram. I think Ben is probably one of the premier go-to photographers. Maybe Hafe Life, Links Gems, and the Golf Hawk are the premier photographers when it comes to golf course photography. So Ben's going to join us and kind of talk us through his golf course photography and everything that he has accomplished in the golf scene, whether it's him playing himself and qualifying for some pretty big events, and take us through kind of the ins and outs of what it's like to be inside the ropes in a PGA Tour event and how he gets these picture perfect images out to all of his followers. Guys, appreciate you listening. As always, enjoy the walk, and you can follow us on @_enjoythewalk and www.enjoythewalk.store. You can check out our new blog there and sign up for all of our email updates. And yeah, guys, that'll about do us here for Tuesday. And up next, we have Ben Peters. Hope you guys enjoy the rest of the show. All right, guys, we have Ben Peters on the show with us here. Ben, appreciate you joining us. The East Coast, West Coast time had us a little jogged up here, but we got the technology to work, and we got you on. So I really appreciate you taking the time to join us here.
All right. Thanks for having me, guys. It's really a pleasure to be on the show, talk some golf.
Yeah, man. So before we had you on the show, or before we, hit record, we were talking a little bit about your past week out at Pebble Beach and some of your favorite spots that you were taking some photos from. Monterey Peninsula is just one of the most photogenic places, I think, on in the United States that we have. And I'd love to kind of hear your aspect of maybe some of your favorite shots that you had out from Pebble Beach this past week, and just kind of run us through what that week looked like for you.
Started out a couple of practice rounds, played Pebble with a couple of executive guys that were actually playing in the tournament just as amateurs. So it was kind of fun. They were playing a little bit of a game, and I was kind of taking some video of them early. They were kind of shooting the shit. But once you get to 3, you can see 17. The bunkering on 3 always kind of gets me. So I took a few photos there during the U.S. Open. And they've shaved that whole area off. So it's really kind of clean mowing lines, and they really like cool bunker edging that really just kind of draws you into the green. And then you got 17 in the background there, which is awesome. And then the ocean's just such a great backdrop. So you can't really go wrong once you get kind of down by 3 and 4. I sat by 4 a lot, just shooting people that were coming off of 3 too, of 16 also, because 4T was connected to 17T. So you could shoot people playing the par 3, and then you could shoot people playing the par 4 up, and people were taking driver, people were hitting irons. So I was just sitting there, just shooting, swing sequences. So that's what some of the stuff that you guys have seen, like on my stories, with just like everybody's just all, it's just this, the swing sequences are from the same spot, because I sat there for like 2 hours and just it was so cool. In the backdrop of number 4, kind of just the bunkering there, and then obviously number 7, I got a pretty cool shot with the light kind of coming across from you from like the west and the northwest. It's kind of a beautiful evening with some nice clouds, and the balcony, or like the grandstand, was all built up, so you can get like kind of a cool angle down on the green. And that was kind of neat, because normally they have a much smaller grandstand for like the at&t or something like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so
like I was able to do that for the
higher
Open
than usually you could get, I would imagine, or kind of just a better angle than normal tournaments out there.
Yeah. And then, I mean, for the at&t, it's just a little different, because there's obviously a lot less people. The grandstands are much smaller. You kind of can't get some of the vantage points. But the other cool thing is that there's not a lot of stuff that's in the way. So I was able to kind of shoot number 6. I mean, I love showing like the scale of number 6. Not a lot of people understand how treacherous that second shot is, because you got to kind of aim over the ocean a little bit.
If there wasn't that TV tower there, I feel like guys would have such a tougher time really navigating that second shot. I feel like that TV tower is a little bit of a godsend for those players.
100%. You never aim far enough right. It's just hard to aim over the ocean. It's just, you got to get it up quick. Otherwise, it just hits that hill, and then you're in that thick rough. So I have a really cool swing sequence of Phil, who drove in the left bunker, actually just above the bunker, and there's some really thick hay, and he tried to go for it to get it up the hill, and he just left it in the middle of the hill. So I got both of those shots kind of in sequence with his caddy trying to line him up and kind of give him some kind of idea of where the pin was and where the green was. But that hill is so severe, even though it can be an easier hole and sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like you saw maybe 60% of guys on Sunday, making a good go at the green, but it seemed like there was like that 40% in there that, man, if you miss that green when you're going for it, it can take some treacherous hops, and then you're short-sided with the bunker, and then you're hitting a flop shot out into the ocean, pretty much. I mean, your backdrop's the ocean, out into the green from the left side. So it was fun to watch guys navigate that hole, when they didn't hit a great approach shot, because it can become tricky really quick.
Yeah, it's actually nice having number 7 to follow up, 6, because it can be a little bit of an easy hole for some of these guys because they're just kind of flopping a wedge down there, but they're putting the pin in the back right and the back left, so it's just not it's not as easy as you'd think. It's just kind of like you hit it to the middle of the green, somehow you get a bounce and it just kind of squirts towards the hole. You're lucky, but you're just trying to hit it in the middle of the green, walk away with a par. Yeah, and then number 8 is also one of my favorites. I love getting behind that green and just shooting the pin. And the scale of that hole is unbelievable. Once you get out towards 8 through 10, it's just a whole lot of fun.
That's when the full display, I think, of Pebble Beach, like in its purity, really, really shows itself. Obviously, 7 is like your signature hole, but you get out on 8 and people forget just how much of a carry that approach shot is and how tough it is coming into that green. So I think, being behind that green, like you said, would probably be one of my favorite spots, because you get those approaches coming in on 8, and then you get 9 tee box that just sets you out right on the cliffs. The scale of that course really comes to show itself within those holes of 8, 9, and 10. And I always like to, and I'd love to get your perspective on it too. We can watch from, the TV and see the blimp kind of showing it from so far out there. But, do you think with your ability as a photographer are able to capture how great that course is in scale from some vantage points that you got out there?
Yeah, that was kind of my main goal with Andy during the U.S. Open, was to shoot scale of the golf course. I mean, everyone kind of gets in tight and doesn't try to include the crowd. You've seen a lot in the past because, there just weren't zoom lenses, so you'd see a lot of photos with the crowd that was included. But in today's game, they're trying to get in there real tight with a huge lens and just, block out the crowd and get a nice backdrop. So, my goal was just to try to show – I have a couple pictures of the crowd, their head level, and then 10 fairway is above their head level. Like the whole 10th hole is above, 1,000 people. And then you turn it around the other way and you look up 14, and then you can see, Kevin Kisner in the fairway with his caddy, and then a guy in the bunker up by the green, and then the guy by the bunker by the green is above Kevin Kisner's head. Like this, it's that much more uphill. Like to show you're talking, 40 feet, uphill. which is you just don't see that from a TV's perspective.
No, and whether it's Pebble Beach or, people talk about the undulation out at Augusta, I think it's the same kind of deal. Like, you never truly get a great read on the, the scale of hills or mountainsides that these courses are cut into just by the TV, broadcast. You can't. It really, I think, plays itself when you're seeing guys on the greens and like saying, man, how did that putt break that much? Because you just can't see it TV wise. But I feel like you guys inside the ropes, and maybe you can touch on this a little bit to what life is like inside the ropes. You guys are able to capture that a little better from a photography standpoint, because you can kind of be, inside on the ground at that level of like eye level with the rest of the players.
It was actually a lot better this time, because I was caddying for an Apple executive, Eddie Q, who's one of the VC at Apple. Great guy. Just had a fabulous time with him the whole week. So I didn't actually have my camera with me like in the past when I've been shooting out there. So I was watching Kuchar and I was watching Fitzpatrick putt, for 4 rounds, because Kuchar and Fitzpatrick actually ended up playing with us on Sunday because they were both tied at 6 under. And both of their short games are unbelievable. I was so impressed with the contact on chip shots, the sound off the face, just their ability to hit their spot where they were looking. They were able to land the ball in the correct spot to be able to get it close to the hole. If it hit a foot from where the ball hit, it would hit the collar, it would have bounced further away, it wouldn't have the correct amount of spin. I was extremely impressed with that, even though they did hit some bad chip shots. But also the putting, their alignment, their how consistent they are to their routine. I mean, they do the same thing every time. Fitzpatrick wanted the flag in a lot on short putts, and I think it helped him. He made a lot of putts with the flag in, and Kuchar just couldn't have the flag in. He just couldn't look at it with the flag in. So, some people, it was just cool to see the differences in their styles. Their speed was probably the most impressive. Speed was just so good, even on the toughest putts. The ball just was never more than, a foot and a half behind the hole. It was so impressive how they made 35, 40 footers look makeable.
And I think that's something like I think we even see as hardcore golf fans, maybe not your everyday golf fans, but like us guys that watch a lot of golf are kind of tuned in on that like, these guys have such great touch, and it looked like Pebble Beach was playing really fast and really firm this week. To have that kind of gauge on your long lag putts, for most amateurs, I feel like if you're in a 5-foot circle from 40 feet plus, you're really happy. And these guys are giving runs at them. These guys aren't just saying, all right, 5-foot circle, call it a day. These guys are trying to make these putts. And if they aren't, they're within like you said, a foot and a half tap in range.
And they were making bogey putts, like bogey putts that were like 10 feet. Like, Fitzpatrick had like a couple bogey putts that, were 15 feet, and he made them both. Like they were just there was no way that they were missing, and if they did, they were like gonna lip out or like something crazy was gonna happen. But there was no way that those balls were not going in the hole. And for an amateur, like there's no way that it's going in. Like there's no way.
Yeah.
There's no way possible that ball is going in the hole after you just duff 2 chip shots. You got a 15-footer for bogey. You're going to probably hit it 15 feet by and just pick it up.
Seven's in the picture easy for most amateurs there.
Hoping you don't 3-putt.
Yeah.
100%. That ball is just so amazing how like their ability to get the ball in the hole. They're not making double. It's not happening.
Yeah. And I think that's what people miss so much of, like, oh, these guys are like, they're not hitting the ball the greatest, but they're still shooting 4 or 5 under or 3 under at some of these really tough tests of course. And it's like, well, how are they doing it? They must be hitting their driver this far. They must be hitting their irons as far as like, no, these boys can putt. Like the short game just speaks so many bounds and leaps above everybody else.
It is that, but it's also willpower. And so I'll tell a quick story about Tom Lehman, who is absolutely insane. He was such a good competitor. He was such a crazy competitor when he was playing his best golf that like he literally would not allow bad golf. Like that's what he would say. Like he would say like he just wouldn't allow himself to play bad. Like even if he was struggling that day, like at the end of at some point in the round, he was feeling like he was just like making a couple bogeys. Like that's just going to stop. That's no more, and then he just starts making birdies and you just get back on track. But there was just such a drive to not play bad golf that he got so much out of his game. Someone who just hit a little slap hook out there and then just, rolled it and just, persevered. So yeah, like that's literally how like, it's so much more focus. There's so much more focused. Like imagine going out there and like taking 18 holes and focusing on every fucking shot, like every single shot, like your drive, you're analyzing where you want to hit it in the fairway, what side of the fairway, which way the fairway slopes, so you can get the ball on the correct side of the fairway to get the ball to have an angle into the green. And then then you need to figure out where you need to land the ball on the green to get the ball close to the hole. So they're actually laying the ball in a different area from where the pin is to get the ball close to the hole, because they can't land the ball anywhere near the pin in some of these tournaments they're playing in, well, most of the tournaments. And if they do, they're going fucking low.
I'm just trying to hit it straight.
Yeah. Well, it's like it's one of those conversations where it's like, all right, well, now that kind of, all right, I want to be here, not there. If the pin's here, if the pin's back, I want to be here. It almost makes Bryson DeChambeau sound, pretty smart in the way he starts attacking these golf courses as far as statistics and analytics, because it almost sounds, and I mean, we've ripped on Bryson a little bit for his quirky antics here and there with, what it may be. But at the end of the day, it's like these guys are just diving into where they need to be in such pinpoint accuracy on golf courses. That
So funny thing about Bryson. So like they say Bryson's wecky. So they say when something's wrong with Bryson, he'll say something like, weird things are happening out there right now. Like when he says that, like he's playing awful.
Is that
wasn't in the calculations?
What NFL quarterback was that he was seeing ghosts?
I have no idea.
There was some NFL quarterback out there this year that was I think it was Sam Bradford that was quoted. He was seeing ghosts out there at the line of scrimmage, and that almost sounds a little similar. Like Bryson's just seeing things when he goes out there. If he's
he's so confused. Like he just has no idea what's going on, and like he's like almost normal for a minute.
Some Field of Dreams stuff right there.
Yeah, some angels in the outfield. Well, it's really cool just to kind of get the perspective of like, obviously a lot of people want to make the argument like, oh, these guys are just like normal guys out there playing rounds of golf. And like, obviously, yes, that's true. But the mental fortitude, kind of what you allude to, of like how good these guys are mentally out there, just seems to be like, that's where the step above the rest is.
Yeah, and I mean a combination of that and then just making really good golf swings where they're hitting the ball really solid, like on the golf course. They're not mishitting very many shots. I mean it's very controlled, very controlled. And if something goes haywire, I mean something else gets back in control, like a short game shot or a bunker shot or a chip shot. You just kind of get in position to, make a 4 or 5 footer, at least for these guys, at least for, Fitzpatrick and Kuchar this week, where they were kind of, back and forth with some mistakes and then kind of getting it going and then kind of backtracking. And then some of these guys just played awful. Then some of these guys, played great. So there's always a handful of guys that play great. There's always a handful of guys that just, even on easy courses, they're going to play like shit because they're just not hitting it good.
That's it. I think, and it's like kind of we alluded to, before we had you on, we talked about like the fact of anyone out there, any given week, if they're striking it well, whether it's first year guys or, your seasoned vets, have a shot to win. They have the game, they have the know-how to get their ball around a golf course to win a tournament. Some weeks guys just don't show up with good golf game in it. And, they miss a cut and they move on to the next week. And then you have your 30, 40 guys that through Friday and Saturday have a good shot at winning a tournament. And I think it's a testament to just the talent that's out there. And it seems to be ever growing. We see more and more guys out there like to just have a shot.
Exactly. I mean, here's another thing is I made a comment about there's rarely somebody that's on the range that's a top player that's on the range on a Wednesday. Wednesday afternoon, 3:30, 4 o'clock. I mean, they're not on the range. They're not grinding it out unless they're really needing to work on something. But for the most part, they might be doing some putting, might be doing some chipping, but they're hanging out with their family. They're relaxing. They're probably doing stuff with sponsors. Talking to, who knows what. But they're not sitting on the range. They're not expelling energy. They're not worried about where the ball's going. They've already done their work. They're not going to find it, Wednesday before the tournament.
Yeah, if you're in your bag searching for a golf game at a PGA Tour event the 2 days before the event starting, you're in some serious trouble.
Yeah, I mean, and the guys that are out there are rookies. They're the rookies that feel like they need to be out there, to put in the work. And they're like, I have to be out here. Like, I have to be here. It's pretty out. I've done that before too. I did this to myself at the Mid-Am at Stonewall because I saw Stuart Hagestad on the range on a couple of days before the tournament. I was there for a practice round, and you could just tell that he was just like a grinder. Now, I'm a fucking grinder. I will grind your ass out. Like I will, dude. I've spent hours working on chip shots and bunker shots, and like I'll be on the putting green, chipping green, and like people will come and go forever.
Like, put on the gloves. Let's go 10 rounds, right? Like
exactly.
You got everybody. Yeah,
100%. I've never met someone that has like outworked me on a range like that before. I tried to keep up with him, and I wore myself out, dude. I couldn't. I was blown away by his ability to just like pound balls and just like work on all types of shots. And I thought to myself, I was like, if I can keep up with this guy, then I'll be able to, be a force in this tournament. And I just wore myself out. Like I should have just, I would have been better off going back to the hotel and just resting and like drinking water and like.
It's funny you say that because as you alluded to before we got on the podcast here, I went to the PGA Championship out at Bethpage in 2018, and the guys that I saw at the top of the leaderboard, come Sunday when I was out there in the practice rounds Tuesday and Wednesday, were the guys that barely hit any balls, but were on the putting green from like 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Walked 9 holes, and then went home. The guy that I saw grind on the putting green the most and barely play any practice round golf was Francesco Molinari, and he finished top 10. And another guy who was out there right beside him, an older guy, Stuart Sink, obviously kind of knows his limitations as far as, physical limitations, just putted. I mean, putted like a madman, finished up there in the top 5. So it's like, it's funny, you think, you got to, almost it's like you got to prove yourself and put your time in if you're out there, right off the bat. And it's almost the opposite. It's like you have to know where to expend your energy if you don't have that kind of, godlike ability like a guy like Stu has to grind out there for hours and hours.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously, I'm not as good as Stuart Sink or Stuart Hagestad or Stuart Sink, but it's just good to show you that, each player is extremely different. I mean, some people don't even practice at all. You got guys, obviously Koepka has proved that, his talent trumps, mechanics every time. I'll say that. Even my buddy Jake, who's a really good golf teacher, it will always, talent, always trumps any kind of mechanics or, hard, in most cases, hard work. And that's why some people have to work a lot harder than others.
It's funny you say that, because it's like the guy you just actually mentioned a little bit earlier, Matt Fitzpatrick. I've heard him say a lot that, like, when he takes off weeks, he doesn't touch a club. He picks up a club when he gets to an event, pretty much, or maybe 3 or 4 days before he travels to an event. Really grinds it out for those couple days, but just knows that it's there. I mean, he's one of those guys that just kind of has it and can fine tune the short game and maybe a little, position here or there when he's at an event, with very little kind of grind, like kind of.
Yeah. You're definitely right. And I talked to him a little bit about some short game stuff, and his knowledge of how to hit certain types of shots is overwhelming. Like, he knows exactly what the ball is going to do in any type of, certain situation, based on any type of lie. So I was asking him, like, how does he get the ball? The thing that I'm most impressed with these guys is how they get the ball up so fast, so early. Like, I mean, most amateurs, you'll see chip shots are going to come out low and running, or even if something that you have to get up quickly when you're short-sighted, it's still going to come out, low and hot, or in most cases, like hit the collar and go shooting past the pin, which happens so much. But like, these guys get the ball up so quick and down so soft. It's just unbelievable. So we talked a little bit about that, and like shaft lean, how like so many amateurs just lean the shaft towards the ball, so much. And you can't have any shaft lean if you want to get the ball up in the air. And talking about trying to get the ball to rise up the middle of the face, versus hitting low on the face. If the ball hits low on the face, it's going to come out low. It's not going to come out. If the ball hits high on the face, the ball is going to come out high, but it's also a little bit harder to control. But these guys are really good at it. So we just talked a little bit about that, because I just don't see people hit those shots, even in the top level amateur tournaments I play in.
Yeah, and I think I'd love to get into that a little more too. You yourself on amateurgolf.com sitting at a plus 1.4 handicap. I mean, you've seen the high. Right. Like, I don't know if you're not recording all your rounds, are you?
I'm definitely not.
But no, I mean, you've touched some high end amateur golf here in the last 5 years. And I'd love for you to get in that a little bit of kind of, when you first got your first taste of maybe high end amateur golf, and what you kind of see on the amateur side of things that maybe differ from that professional level that you've been around the last couple weeks, and even in your caddying experience.
Yeah. So for the first thing I would say for anyone listening is to just go find their local amateur golf organization and just figure out what tournaments they can play in. That's what literally got me started. I was playing some golf up in like Santa Rosa, like Sonoma County area, like Northern California, and I was just really loving just competing and playing. And so I looked at the NCGA calendar, and they had just a ton of tournaments that you can travel to Monterey, you can qualify for it, and you can go play Spyglass. There was a deal where you could qualify for a match play championship with Spyglass, where you're paying $300, and then you could play, potentially 5 rounds at Spyglass. That's like, I mean, it's $400 to play that golf course. So
it's the deal of the century.
I mean, and if you make match play, you're at least playing 3 rounds. If you play 1 round, you're saving $100. If you play 2 rounds, I mean, essentially, I wanted to play Spyglass, so I was like, all right, if I can get good enough to qualify for this tournament, then I can go play Spyglass, 2 rounds of Spyglass for $300. Hell yeah, let's go! I'm in.
No, I mean, it's the same thing here. And it's like you said, just go to your local state amateur organization and check it out. I was very fortunate enough last year to go play Baltimore Country Club, which is one of the, premier golf courses
Yeah,
within the Maryland area.
that's a
And
sweet towing house.
dude, the Tillinghast design there is unreal. And for me, being a guy that had played a lot at like the D3 level of college, I saw my fair share of munis through college, So I was
Yeah,
like, let's go seek out some good golf, and where can I get to play tournament golf on some epic courses? And usually, like you said, it's your amateur events in your state or run organizations, whether it's Isaiah down in Georgia, or I know Dante's got a pretty good organization in like the New Jersey, Philly area too. You can play some really good courses pretty quickly if you get through like one round of qualifying events. So I love that kind of aspect of getting out there and just checking out your local amateur events.
yeah. And then eventually, when I was like 23, 24, I started kind of getting a little bit better. And my buddy who was building my clubs at the time was like, "You need to qualify for the Mid-Am. Like, if you win the Mid-Am, you can go to Augusta." Uh, and I was like, "Wow, the Mid-Am, like that's crazy." So when I turned 25, I just tried to sign up for qualifiers that were at local courses that I hadn't played, because I was like, I'm never going to be able to play this course, so I might as well just play the qualifier and have some fun. And then I did that for a couple of years, and I started playing a little bit better. And I was like, man, if I actually focused, I could have shot like 69, and I could have qualified. Like, what am I doing? Let's get this on track. So then I realized that like if I got a little bit better, I could qualify for an event and then go to a USJ event, which would really just mean like a lot for my career, like a lot for just like a resume, golf, like experience, everything. So I ended up qualifying for back-to-back Mid-Ams in 2016, 2017. And that was just such a cool experience. I mean, like even now I'm thinking about it, it's like, wow, I played really, really good. I played really good golf for a little bit there. So, and that was never in the picture when I first started.
So that's what I want to backtrack real quick and just kind of know, like, when was the first time you picked up a club? And then, like, did you play in college at all? Or did it really just kind of become serious, like you said, at like 22, 23, when you looked at kind of the amateur events?
So I picked up a club early when I was like 7, 8, I would say, and just like, shoot like 130. And then when I was 14, 15, play a little more. My dad wanted to kind of take me to play like all the local courses in the area, kind of like, rejuvenate his memory of some of the places that he used to play when he was a kid.
Mm-hmm.
So we did that every weekend. We'd go play like a new course. So that was really awesome to kind of be able to go do that. And then we went on a trip to Scotland. My grandmother, she put aside like a little bit of money for like each grandchild to like go to Europe. So we focused that trip around golf. And if I was like, I told myself if I was going to go out there and play golf, I wanted to play good. There was no way that I was going to like hack it around. So I worked pretty hard my senior year, a summer, just trying to hit balls, practice. And I went over there and I actually played surprisingly well. I shot in the 70s a few times. And then when I came back, I had a driving range across the street from my dorm. I just go over there and smash balls, try to bring girls over there. That was awesome.
Seeing how far you could hit the long ball.
Yeah, because I used to hit it pretty far in college. Because we also had a gym, so I was working out a bunch and just hitting bombs. And so yeah, all the girls, we had like a co-ed dorm, so I'd be like, I'm gonna go over and hit some golf balls, and then it's like the girls would like, oh, I'm gonna come too. And it's like, all right, yeah, come on. And then you hit a golf ball, you're like, oh wow, like you really know what you're doing. And then
it's just instant score.
It was great. I mean, the rest is history.
Absolutely. No, that's really cool. And it's like, it's funny to me where everyone comes from to get into the game, whether it's competitively. And it's why I love amateur golf so much, because the stories become so much more rich in how people get to the game or when they picked it up. You see guys, whether it's yourself picking it up young and then not really getting serious until your 20s, or it's guys that, didn't even pick up a club till their 20s and then, end up being pretty good, or guys that transition from different sports. I think the dichotomy of like amateur golf is just so cool because there's so many different guys that just get into it from one way, shape, or another and end up really playing good competitive golf.
Yeah, well, it was definitely after I started kind of going to the range a lot and kind of practicing, and then I saw the tournament schedule, and then I got really excited to be able to play tournaments when I was like probably 22, 23. So it wasn't really until I saw the tournaments that were in the area, and I got really excited to be able to compete. Until that was what really fired me up to kind of get better, for sure. And
I think always those
I got a mentor,
like big
and I got a
venues.
coach.
Those big venues are always like my kind of draw to the game, and like a little bit extra fire. It's like, man, come on, like 2 more strokes down a stretch here, and you're playing here. It's like whether you got the opportunity to play Stonewall, which is Isaiah and I, being from Pennsylvania, we are very aware of that course and how great of a layout that is, and how challenging of a place Stonewall can be. But just, when you think of high-end golf in Pennsylvania, Stonewall is obviously up there within, your upper.
Yeah.
So,
do you guys want to hear a funny story about, Stonewall, how the second course got built?
I'm always in for one.
Sure.
So, Doak built that course, the original course, when he was like 30.
Mm-hmm.
He was like super early in his career, and he and Gil Hance actually were like on tractors and like crafting those greens. Like, he said that was probably one of the last courses that he actually like hand built himself.
Mm-hmm.
So that's that was one of the cool things. And then he switched. Fazio was actually the original architect, and so he had routed the whole place, and he had the 18th hole as like the 10th hole, and the tee box was down by where the green is now, which is in this beautiful spot that's like overlooking that's like looking down at the clubhouse and like this lake. He had the hole going the opposite way, back up over the hill to a green that was like up on top. And Doak was like, this is not what you want. You want to be coming back over this hill, looking down at the green, looking at the clubhouse. Like, that's the view that you want to be finishing on. And so he feels like that was the reason why he got the job in the first place, being 30 years old and super young. So he built the golf course. Him and Hance were like, built the golf course with their hands. And then he sat down with the owner, and they were like, we had this other property that we want to build the golf course on in like 10 years, would you be willing to do that? He'd be like, yes, of course, no problem. So like 10 to 15 years go by, and they kind of call him up and they're like, hey, like, we're ready to build another golf course. And he's like, oh yeah, that's awesome. But my fee has gone up, quite a bit in the last, 15 years. And the owner was like, no, it hasn't. And he pulled out this napkin that Doak had signed that he was going to do, the second course for like a certain amount. And then, which was like, I don't know, millions of dollars less.
I was going to say,
whatever amount.
Heftily,
I mean,
not as much.
Not as much. So he had basically like got him to sign this napkin, just like, hey, you're going to do this course, the way it is now, everything's going to be, wait. And he's like, yeah, totally. Like, I mean, who knew he would have done what he did 15 years later.
Become one of like the icons. Yeah.
Exactly. So he's stuck in this situation. He's like, what do I do? And he's like, all right, I'll build the golf course.
Oh, he just
so he built it.
Great.
Yeah. It was more to him than that. Like, he wanted to build the golf course, and it was on a really good piece of property where he didn't have to move very much land. And he made it walking only. You could bring your dog out there. Yeah, it's really cool.
Mm-hmm. There's a lot of that. I feel like we heard a lot more of it more recently with like your Bandon Dunes and your places like that, that there's a lot of focus on these golf course architects just kind of really choosing, places and not really choosing like, the high ends. Obviously they're going to take the money where they can, but it's like if they're choosing, your beachfront rather than your inner course, like there's actually some fights going on as far as like who gets what as far as property between these kind of, I don't know if you could call them
Dude.
starchitects, but
Sheep Ranch is absolutely insane. I'll tell you that place is going to be so cool. You guys got to get back out there, check that place out.
We've seen nothing but rants and raves from inside the industry as far as when that
It's
place
going to be so
opens, how
good.
great it's going to be. So
I'm very excited to see that property. And there's a new property that's being built in Northern California, up in Lake County, called Brambles. It's a Core Crenshaw. Check out their Instagram page. They're actually like posting photos of of the property and like of the course. Like it's just like random like shots that like with a cell phone, but like there's like pins in the ground. There's like some green complexes that look like they're being kind of formed. They're waiting for permits and everything, but it's like it's going to be a Core Crenshaw up in this like really cool like rustic like kind of like open like valley with like some cool oak trees. That's gonna be amazing.
yeah,
So
I feel like
I can't
anything
wait to
Fort
be able
Crenshaw
to.
is a must-see kind of design, especially just given their track history and just anything on their list of finished open golf courses seems to be a must play. So
Yeah,
I haven't heard of it, but I'm really excited to kind of dive in and see what they got going on up there.
yeah. That's. I mean, there's another dope course that's supposed to be built up there in that same kind of area. He had one that got shut down. That was like 9 holes. Can't remember the name of it. But it was a kind of a cool little thing that was like out in the Central Valley. But he's supposed to be building something up there too. Which is cool, which is awesome. I mean, it's great to see golf courses being built, especially in California.
Yeah, I think we talked about this many of times before, but golf went through such an overbuild boom kind of in like the late 90s, early 2000s, especially with resort course style, that I'm excited to see at least the focus on a majority of these newer courses. I mean, with your exclusive of like Bandon, obviously there's like going to be, I think 7 courses there total, I think is their plan when they're done or something close to that.
Yeah, I think 6. Yeah, 6 or 7. I'm not sure. I'm losing
Um,
track.
but it's nice to see the architects actually, I don't know, I hate to say giving a shit, but like actually putting golf course architecture first rather than just making them resort style courses that, focuses on the horrible, average golfer, and they're putting a focus back on the golf course architecture, which I think is a really neat thing to see.
Yeah,
Almost like
they're yeah.
It's almost
Go
like
ahead.
they're putting the focus in on like the golf fanatic themselves, and that rather than, okay, here's a resort where we can just make a total money. Let's give an experience for the true golfer, even if you're not the best of players, just the fact that you just love the game for what it is, and let's design like a resort style but for the golfer.
Dare I say the resort style course with like the cart first in mind is starting to go by the wayside, and people are starting to design courses based on the walking experience that you're going to take. And I mean, maybe that's just because I'd like to figure it out for the enjoy the walk crowd, but I think it's starting to focus more back on kind of the authenticity of walking a golf course rather than taking carts around it.
Oh, absolutely, man. I mean, ever since I pretty much started walking because it would save at my course, it would save me a few dollars. But, once I started walking, walk first, cart second. If I have to take a cart, I'll take it. But anytime I have a chance to walk, I'm strapping the bag on my back and I'm going. And it kind of seems like it's pushing that way too, because you can definitely see a lot of companies out there making those more universal Sunday carry bags where it's not just meant for 7 clubs. You can stuff all 14 in there and carry what you need. And I really think, golf's going in that direction because at the end of the day, it was intended to be on your 2 feet.
Yeah.
You know, just love it.
Yeah, that's true. That's really true. And the Mackenzie bags are really good. You know, Jones bags are really good. You know, you don't see those are probably some of the only companies that are making like non bags without stands. But a lot of people are kind of taking on to them. Just kind of throwing them on. Just kind of throw it to the side. You know, on the green, grab your putter. Just it's just
I'll be
I
honest.
don't know style.
I won a Link Soul bag, one of their Sunday carry bags, and
Oh yeah, they make good bags too.
they make surprisingly good bags. And I was actually shocked when I got it in the mail of the quality of it, but just kind of the ease of it. Like I had never had a true Sunday carry bag before without any legs or anything. I always had something along the lines of the Pinghoofer or something like that. You know, your classic like college bag, what it may be. But to have no stands, the first like 2 or 3 holes, it was like, damn, this is weird. Like I'm like just so used to
Just
popping
throw it
it
on the
down, you
ground.
know. But
It's
once
not
you
fun
get used to it,
batting.
I can imagine. Yeah,
It's not
especially if you're
fun.
double bagging.
No, that's the worst. I mean, I'll always change it out. I mean, unless the other bags, like one of those bags where you kind of just like rest the bag with that stand on it, which I do sometimes. Depends how much the guy's paying me.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. No,
Because sometimes those guys with the bags with no stand, I mean, they got a lot of money, you know.
yeah, they're in it for the
They
fashion.
want-
So
and they don't want you to change their bag out. So it's almost worse if you try to change it out. They're like, you can't carry this thing, man.
yeah, what are
Well,
you consider yourself a looper? What are you talking about?
actually, yeah, because I don't want to bend down, 45 times today. Yeah, I don't want to carry it.
Oh man, I'd love to get into that too a little bit. I think as your Instagram portrays most of the golf shots that you get, I think maybe a lot of people don't know that you actually you caddy out at, is it San Francisco Golf Club or
Yeah.
Country Club? So you do
Yeah,
that
golf
full
club.
time.
Yeah.
Mixed in with all of your other obligations of photography and what have it. So, what's in the life of an everyday caddy? What are some things that maybe people don't realize caddies do each and every day?
Well, we're independent contractors for the most part. It's just and the club I work at, it's really exclusive. They don't really they don't like photography. They don't really like any kind of social media stuff. But I mean, it's just but it doesn't mean they're it's a bad group of people or anything like that. They're just they enjoy their privacy. And it's also a very exclusive group of people who have worked very hard, over a course of a long time to get where they are. So I have a lot of appreciation for being there and working there. It's a hard job to get, even though it's caddying is not necessarily hard. You're sitting on the bench there for a long time before you kind of start getting some loops and start getting some work. So it's an old school place. You're in a way you're your own boss. Like you have to create your own schedule. You're in charge of your own finance, your own income. To be able to, you can spend your money that you make or you could save it. It just depends on what your lifestyle is. I like to go play a lot of golf, after I work. Now it's a little bit different because I got a kid. But I love being outside. I love being on the grass. I love, interacting with people. The people that you meet, they've all got such unique stories. And being out at San Francisco, like, it's such a great place to play. Like, they're so excited when they get there. So, and one of my favorite things to do is take somebody around the course for their first time, because they've heard the history. Even though they try to not keep everything so private, everyone knows how amazing the place is, and everyone wants to play it. So when people finally get a chance to play it, and I get a chance to be on their bag for that first experience, it's really awesome. And you can tell that they don't want it to end. They're lighting up the whole entire time. Most courses that have caddies, you're going to get guests that kind of feel that same way, especially on the East Coast, like playing like National or like Fisher's Island, or even though they don't have like a huge caddy program, but playing like Shinnecock or any of those big courses on Long Island. I mean, when you're playing it with a caddy, like it's so fun. And so as a caddy, I try to take that into account, even though like after the fourth or fifth hole, sometimes you can kind of be over the loop. You're like, all right, I just want this to be over so I can go do what I need to do for the rest of the day. I actually really enjoy it. I enjoy the whole process. Some loops suck just because people just don't understand how to manage their own game, or they just don't listen. They're like, how do you know which way this breaks? It's like, because like when you're not here, I'm here.
Every day, for the most part.
Every day.
Yeah.
Like the reason why I know that this breaks to the left is because every time I've been in this position the last 150,000 times or whatever it's gone to the left. So it's probably going to go left today.
It's funny.
I mean, it's
the first round that I've ever played with a caddy was at Pebble Beach. And the guy that we had as a caddy, he was double looping for my dad and myself. And the other caddy that was caddying for the two guys we got paired up with was having such a hard time. I felt like he just wanted to throw their clubs into the ocean, because every read he gave them was right. They just didn't want to listen. But then they'd like kind of bark at him, a little bit. Like that's afterwards, they're like, "Oh, you should have convinced me to should have told me it was going to break." And he's like, "I did, and you didn't want to listen to me." So it's like, I can see how that gets brutal quick of guys that are just a little too boneheaded.
So at Pebble, that's the kind of the price you pay, because you're gonna get hooked up for rounds out there. Like it's gonna be, I mean, you're getting paid pretty good, on top of what the resorts you've been taking away from you, and like the Caddy Corporation. But you're gonna get people that maybe have only played once in their life, and they're playing. They could be terminal, and they're playing Pebble Beach for their last time, or they've never been there, or they're on a company thing and the company's paying for it. And it's like they've played golf like twice in the last 4 years. It's like you got to guide them around the place, and they're never going to hit a shot solid. They're never going to hit anything with the correct speed. So it's like you just kind of got to that's just you have to know that you're going to get those days.
Yeah, if you're hoping for one solid contact over an entire round, someone is probably not going to break 100.
Or just something. You got to find ways to keep yourself in it. Otherwise, you'll drive yourself crazy. Or just do something else. I mean, a lot of people do caddy for a few years and they just give it up. I mean, me personally, I feel like I enjoy it a lot. So I get a lot out of it. Exercise. Meeting people, access to other courses. You get invited to a lot of places. I mean, as long as you're not an idiot.
Yeah.
I mean, it opens up doors to be able to travel and see the world.
And I think that's the one thing too that I actually was able to talk to the caddy I had out at Pebble Beach, was about kind of everywhere. I think he was from Scotland, had moved over here with his wife, and I think they caddy at Pebble 7-8 months out of the year, and then he goes back to Scotland, and he's either at Carnoustie or the old course, I think, for 3 or 4 months too. So it was cool to kind of hear his aspect on things, and just really understand that he's like, listen, I'm one of like a ton of guys in this caddy shack, in this caddy barn, that like they travel for like a living. And when it gets bad here, or if it's a slow month here, they go somewhere else where it's warm, or it's a quick month for them, or it's like a steady month for them. So it's pretty neat to see like that those opportunities are out there for for jobs for people. And I think it's one of the most unconventional yet really rewarding and like neat jobs that is out there for the taking, if you want to put in some effort and actually like you said, just at some point not be an idiot, and just be a good person, and know how to have a conversation a little bit.
Yeah, that's exactly what it takes. I mean, you're seven jobs at once. You know, you're a psychologist. You know, you're a dietitian. You're a relationship specialist. You know, you're a caddy, and then you're like a restaurant, like you got to tell them where to eat too. You got to know what the good spots are around to eat.
Yeah.
It's all kinds of stuff.
And I think that's what's so good about it, and that's what people, whether they know it or not, are expecting out of their caddy is a little bit of everything. And when you go and pay that much for whether it's Pebble Beach or even some of your courses like Pinehurst or what it may be, you're looking for. And I hate to say this because it sounds a little creepy when I said it in my head, but it's like you're looking for like a companion over those 18 holes of golf to like truly
Oh
get a
no,
full experience out of it.
that's not even creepy at all, because some guys like absolutely love caddies. I mean, like, love caddy programs. I mean, you got guys that are like, you know, really fucked up on drugs that members will really take care of because they just really appreciate them as humans. They have no other option. It's the same as when you drive by someone on the side of the street and you feel like you need to give them $5 just to help them for that day. Like, whatever they're going to do with it, whatever. You just know that, like, you need to help somebody. So there's a lot of that in the caddy world, clubs across America. Um, but it's also a stepping stone for a lot of people to be able to, you know, realize, some of the things that are going wrong in their life, and maybe fix them. Because you can, a lot of members and a lot of people will help you. They'll help you, become a better person. They'll realize, like, hey, like, if you want to keep this job, like, you can't act that way. Like, you can't, have 18 beers and come into work. You got to mind your P's and Q's. And then if it doesn't work out, then the next place that they go to, hopefully they can learn from it and help them, because uh, even at the most exclusive clubs in the world, you know, it's these people who are rich, and people want to say that, like, oh, they don't care. They do care. They care a lot.
We're all humans at the end of the day. Yeah.
Yeah, it's I hate the way that that stereotype is.
I agree, and I think just like you said, and you hear stories of it every now and then. Obviously, it's not the mainstream news, but it's like these clubs become family, whether it's members to caddies or vice versa, to where you really just start to develop relationships, and it does start to be like, all right, well, if you have your regular guy that you're getting looped at, once, twice a week, if not more, and over a course of a year or two, you start to develop a, like, more of a, whether it's a brotherhood or like a father-son relationship or whatever it may be, you start to develop a relationship to where, like, it's more than just golf, and it's more than just carrying a bag,
Yeah,
over whatever if it's 4 hours or 6 hours, depending how long you play golf over a round of golf, it develops into something so much deeper very quickly.
yeah, that's a lot. It's a lot of how these relationships form, like, over something like the AT&T. Like, some of these guys have been going down with their players for 10 years and or more. Um, so it's definitely more than caddying, for a lot of people. Um, yeah, it's definitely the best job I've ever had.
That's really cool. Now, I would not be doing our listeners any justice if I didn't transition a little bit into, what made you get behind the camera for the first time, and really start putting golf course photography out there. I think it's, one of the main focuses, obviously, of your Instagram account, but then, it's become kind of how we found you, has been the golf course photography side of things.
Yeah.
So what made you get into that for the first time, and what made you be the guy behind the camera? And, like, were you always that guy, or did you transition into that kind of role?
I first started taking photos with a cell phone, uh, and then I thought they were good, and my buddy was like, "Yeah, like, these aren't good."
Newsflash.
And I was like, man, but this, look at this, look at this. He's like, no, like you can't just like slap a crazy filter on it. And it looks crazy. It doesn't look good. So then I was like, what do you got to do? And this is my buddy Gunga Galunga Golf, Mike Giggins, absolute maniac. So he was shooting with a Canon 1DX, which is a very, very good landscape camera, video camera, everything. And he was editing stuff in like Lightroom and Adobe and Camera Raw and Photoshop, all that kind of stuff. He was like, you got to shoot in RAW, and you got to get yourself a camera. I was like, all right, I guess I got to. This is what I want to do. Like give me some help. So he gave me his little like Canon like PowerShot from like 2013. He's like, put it in RAW and just start snapping away. So I just started trying to figure out camera settings and snapping photos, downloading them into Lightroom, and then just editing them and just trying to figure it out. I love the process of just trying to make something that I saw, in real time look like that, and then the more I did it, the more I realized how hard it was to make it look the way I wanted it to look. And I'm like, then I kind of get some photos that like look decent. And then the more I kind of like would show them, like some of them would be like awesome. Like one or two would be like really good. And then I'd take one that I thought looked good. And then people would be like, this is no, like, this is not good. So it was a learning process of just a constant learning process, constant trial and error. And then I ended up upgrading my equipment to Sony stuff. And then that really just took off because the camera was just so good that I had so much more power to be able to work with, just with settings, with light conditions, even midday stuff. So once I got that Sony camera, I just took off and I just started to try to shoot as much as possible, even landscape stuff, the Golden Gate Bridge. That was what really kind of got me kind of going. I just wanted to go out there and shoot. I love shooting water motion. Like you get the waves kind of smashing up against rocks. That was so cool. And I wanted to figure out like how people did that, or like light trails with like cars.
I was just gonna say, I'm looking at one here. This is from, says 12 weeks ago, whatever it is, November 14th. I'm looking at one here that's got like the fog kind of misting over the Golden Gate Bridge. You can't really see the whole bridge, but you can see the piers. And then
is there like a little S light turn?
Yeah, this has this awesome little S light turn. And I'm like, I have no clue how you did that, but it is one of the coolest pictures I've ever seen of the Golden Gate Bridge. And it's really neat to know that, obviously there was a lot of back work that went into setting up that shot. It wasn't just like you walked up there and was like, oh, there it is, and snapped it and walked back down.
Yeah. So it's got to be it's on a tripod. You need a tripod for stability. Sorry. So you can stabilize the camera, and then you need like a 25 or 30-second exposure to be able to get those cars. And you got to time it when the cars are coming, because obviously if the cars were to stop halfway through that little S turn and not get around the corner. I wanted the cars to get around the corner. If the cars stop halfway, the photo kind of loses all the interest. But I can get them coming all the way down that whole path around the corner, then it makes it look kind of cool and kind of leading towards the bridge. So I went 30 seconds, and then I just waited for it to see a little bit of headlights, and then I would start the camera, and I would hope that the cars would just drive fast enough to be able to get around the corner before the shutter turned off, because I didn't have a setting where I can take longer exposure. So you can like set your camera up to like do like I don't know, you can do like a 4-hour exposure if you want. But it's timing the cars within 30 seconds so they get around that corner to be able to get them in frame. And then that's why you see how the fog's all smoothed out as well. And there's like a little bit of more color because it brings all the light and all the motion into it's capturing all that as the shutter's open. The camera's open. So it's capturing any motion that's going on it's gonna make it either blurred out or it's gonna capture it. And then anything still, it will stay still. That's why the bridge is in focus, because the bridge is not going to move within 30 seconds. At least
Well,
I
I
hope
hope
not.
so. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's really neat. And it's like, I think with all these photos, whether it's you
And shooting in manual mode's huge. It's all in manual.
so you're controlling basically every piece of it at that point.
Yeah. Every step of, the focal length. The focal length is how big, how wide you're making, how much light is coming into the photo. Like, so if you're at like a high focal length, like f20, say, I mean, you're not bringing in any light at all. I mean, everything from what's in front of you to what's in the background will be kind of in focus. Like it'll all kind of, and that's a style that for a lot of people take. They want to shoot at high focal lengths so that most everything is in focus from, what's in the foreground to what's in the background. But when you start getting down into f2.8, f1.4, these really low focal lengths, you get this really blurry background, where you see, that's why you see these, like the focus is right in front of you and everything else is blurred out in the back. So that's it. That's everything that you see that's taken in that, and those photos it's all low focal length, f2.8, f1.4 kind of stuff.
So is it safe to say then that, like, especially with you in particular, you alluded to it there a little bit, but like every photographer, and I think it's easy to see, but especially with your photography, kind of has their own style of something they're comfortable with when they shoot,
Yeah. I've been influenced by, a number of people, but a lot of it's just been figuring it out myself and just trying to figure out what looks good. I've probably been influenced by more landscape photographers with just trying to use all the types of different filters to direct light to where I want it to go in the photo, which is what you see a lot in landscape photos versus that's why I did that thing with that mid pines. I did a post on mid pines, and I posted the photo from my camera, and I posted the photo from my cell phone, and I did a video on top of that just to show you the difference between a cell phone and the difference between, a zoom lens and a Sony camera, which is a big difference because a lot of people's eyes just don't see that. Like, you just don't see the difference between, what a cell phone is versus, a real camera. And I think that it's a lot of golf photography on Instagram is really bad.
It's easy to snap a picture from the top of a hill, kind of overlooking something, and call it a day. And I think, and I'm not sure, maybe you can tell me if I'm right here, but you get into a little bit of drone photography too.
Yeah, definitely.
And I'd love to know, because I dabble very briefly in drones photography. I have an old DJI, but even your drone photographs, and I'm not sure if it's from the editing or you're just setting up your drone right too, but your drone photography matches your high-end camera photography, and that's impressive to me, is where it all kind of ties into the same style.
Yeah, a lot of it just has to do with the way that you format stuff on Instagram. Like, you have to format things to 4:5 crop to be able to kind of make it look presentable. So the resolution on the drone is high enough to where I can shoot in RAW and it looks crisp and it looks good. Versus a very high resolution camera. Like, I'm not really getting much out of using an expensive Sony for Instagram stuff. I mean, yeah, like I can do a lot with it, but Instagram decompresses the crap out of all your photos. So, if I were to show you the photos like on my laptop or my phone, they look twice as good because they're not decompressed. Like the colors are a little bit more vibrant. Like it's way sharper. So Instagram absolutely destroys photos. Like,
is there anywhere that like we as the general public can find maybe your high end resolution photos for purchase or anything like that at the moment?
I mean, I have some of them on Twitter, and I'm working on a website to be able to. Twitter actually has like a much better resolution quality for photos.
Mm-hmm.
Like I don't know why they just choose to probably whoever stores all the stuff that goes into the someone's got they have to hire someone to store all that information every day, and it's expensive to store at a higher resolution. That's why Instagram everything is decompressed so much. So Twitter just hasn't gone down that road, and like Twitter photos, if you go back and forth between Twitter and Instagram, Twitter photos look way better than Instagram photos. I mean, just the resolution is just higher on Instagram.
That's just odd to me since Instagram is basically Twitter with it's photo Twitter.
Yeah, I mean the whole Instagram like origin was for photographers and for artists to like get their photographs out there.
Going back to the mid pines, I'm looking at the photo right now. I'm looking at that Instagram post, and the first is the camera, the one is the iPhone, and then your video. It's two separate pictures, and you would, without you saying it, you would think it's two different holes.
Yeah, and also like you would probably if I just posted the photo from my cell phone and like just maybe lightened up the green, took away some of the green a little bit, and lightened up just enough to where it looked a little bit better. Like people probably wouldn't tell too much of a difference. That would have probably gotten 400, 500 likes or whatever it would have gotten. But once you show how drastic the difference is, like then people can kind of be able to tell.
Yeah, I think that's always the end all be all with photography. It's like when people see something like you said on just a regular phone image, and most golf photography out there on Instagram is, that's awesome. But then they see the real high quality stuff, and it's almost mind blowing because 85% of the regular photos out there were already kind of, in all at or just looking at on a daily basis. So when we really start to see that high end material, it's mind blowing. I'm looking at a picture here of a photo that has, the golf course kind of at dusk with the Milky Way in the background. And it's like, there's no way a phone camera is capturing all of that. And that's when it starts to differentiate itself.
I got in trouble for that one.
Uh-oh. Were you out past curfew on that one?
No, actually the funny thing is I got full permission to take that photo by the golf course, but some other people on Instagram just weren't very happy with it.
Well, they're just
I'll just say that some people's wives don't need to bark at me on Golf Digest about my photo.
That
was extremely unprofessional, and
shame on you.
Yeah,
shame on you for your wife barking at me. It shows you how small of a person you are.
Goodness, we could go down a whole nother rabbit hole on that. I think we all agree there's so much room in this industry for people to just do their own damn thing and have fun with golf however we see fit,
One thing I really wanted to say about I mean it's kind of based on that, but it kind of it's where things I've kind of taken from some of the experiences where you're in this world, people are in this world where everyone's talking shit about each other. Everyone wants to talk shit or say something bad about someone else because they'll hopefully crumble, or they won't use that as, force to get better or change or do something about it. Most people crumble, so that's why you see most of the people in, Golf Digest comments or most of the people that are talking shit about somebody, blew a cut or missed a putt on the 18th hole. Most of those people that are saying those things are the types of people that you just don't want to be involved with. Like, you want to be involved around positive people who are saying, hey, it's great that the guy got into that position in the first place. It's hard enough to be, 20 under par, have a putt to win a tournament. Congratulations, good job. You'll probably learn from that and win in the future. So when I'm down at Pebble in around these people, these are professional people, not just golfers. They're not professional golfers, they're professional people. And I go down there and I'm have a great opportunity to be able to be inside the ropes, and there's always somebody that's gonna have a problem with it. Even though I'm not doing anything wrong, I'm just living my life and doing my thing, but someone's always gonna have a problem with it. And you need to get yourself out of that group of people, where people feel like they need to tell you something bad that you're doing in order to tone you down. Even these guys, the people on tour that are, if anyone's talking about any of them doing stupid stuff, it's because they're doing stupid shit. Like, no one's saying anything bad about somebody just for the hell of it because they want to see them, crumble or falter. There's none of that. If someone's talking shit about somebody, it's because they're an idiot and they've done something stupid. Everyone keeps to themselves. They are very supportive. Someone hits a great fucking shot, man. It's not like, oh man, like, you're gonna save par, like, like, you got you there.
Yeah, if they were saying that, they shouldn't have been around for Phil's third round. Goodness.
Yeah, actually,
I know what you're saying, and it's kind of like the same, I feel like, mentality we had when we went down to the PGA show. There was obviously some people that we saw kind of like turning their noses a little bit to just like new people in the media center that just, weren't their cup of tea, and it's like, rather than turn your nose and make enemies, or not even make enemies, because we really didn't know them and we still don't know them. We didn't introduce ourselves if you're going to turn your nose, but it's like, be the kind of people that we met that like opened their hands to us and said, hey, we see your new podcast. We were down that road 2 or 3 years ago. How can we help? And it's like, be those kind of people. Be the kind of people that are like putting their hands out there to say, all right, let's build you up, because that's what this industry is. That's what the pros are, that are your top echelon pros. That's what everyone's doing in this industry that's in it for the long run, is building people up and putting that atmosphere out there of how can I help rather than how can I tear you down.
Yeah, and if you're doing something wrong, come at them in a constructive way rather than trying to, step on them.
Because chances are they probably know they're doing something wrong to begin with. They just haven't been called out on it. So like coming at it from a kinder place in your heart will probably be received better too.
And then you also have to be willing and open to be able to, accept, that kind of criticism, and then be able to, push it away if you don't feel like it's something that's going to help you, or, apply it if you feel like it's something that will help you.
Yeah, for sure. No, it's a funny little spot to be in when you're in inside the ropes, or inside the, as we had credentialed media. It's like, it's a funny spot to be in, because there's almost, I'd hate to say it, but it's like almost the old heads that have been there for so long, they don't want to give up their spot almost.
Yeah. When you start doing something good and people start barking, I mean, that's a good thing. It's really a good thing, and you should focus on just what you're doing, and just keep plugging forward, and then eventually you'll get yourself out of that rut where you'll constantly hear those little comments in the background, and then everything around you will just be positive. that's my goal, and I'm slowly kind of getting out of that little group of people who, are constantly negative and doubt themselves, doubt everyone else. And I've been fortunate enough to be around, a lot of great people who have helped me, realize that and grow as a person, grow as a photographer, grow as a golfer. All the things that are going to be beneficial for you.
Yeah, I mean, heck, if you, and I know everyone does, everyone always has room to grow, but looking over your work to date and looking over your golf record to date, if you have room to grow, which everyone does, and continue to grow, I can't wait to see what's in store, because your photography is already amazing. The golf game is top notch as well, and I can't wait to see you continue to compete in that realm. So growing in both aspects. It's going to be exciting to watch from our perspective to see what you are able to produce in both realms there.
Yeah, I guess it sounds, I guess that doesn't sound corny, but it's definitely a little bit of a mama mentality for sure.
Not corny
It's
at all.
like,
I mean, we talked about
I
it.
don't want to like talk about that like all of a sudden now, because it's like, because of what happened to Kobe, but like, it's definitely, it's true. Like he had no patience and no desire to deal with anybody that had any kind of bullshit. Like it was just, if you couldn't put up, then he just didn't have any time for you. And like he wasn't
Mediocrity
gonna,
was like not in the conversation at all.
yeah, it was just wasn't an option. And that's because back to Tom Lehman, and mediocrity just wasn't, it wasn't an option. Like he wasn't going to play bad golf. Like, I'm not playing fucking bad golf today. I'm winning this golf tournament. That's just literally what he would say to himself. Like,
Yeah.
this is not happening. Nope. This is going in, so that has to do with photography too. Like, I'm running out there at this moment, I'm getting the shot that I want. Like I'm making this happen. Like, I'm going to go out there and do it. And if the conditions are right, God willing, my wife is nice enough to let me kind of jump out of the house at certain times when fog's rolling in, or I got to go shoot a course or do whatever. I mean, that's been kind of a blessing too, because she's been willing to let me kind of go capture some really nice moments. So yeah.
I feel like the partner in crime is
growing.
always a necessity when going out and chasing some aspirations like this.
Yeah, always trying to grow, always trying to get better. That's always, staying static is never good. When you feel like you're comfortable, I feel like it's time to change, or look to, reevaluate. Like what am I doing? Can I make it better? Not necessarily change, but just how can I make it better?